After the corkscrew area, the passage angles up for another 5 feet or so, then turns down over a rock ledge with a sharp 90-degree bend to the left. Up until now, cavers had used this small area after the corkscrew to turn back on themselves if needed, and head back through the difficult section. 5 years before, a 16-year-old boy named Brock Clark was stuck in this corkscrew section. He was only 5 foot 7 inches tall and weighed 140 pounds, but got wedged when he was trying to turn around. It took 14 hours for rescuers to free him. John was in the exact spot where Brock got stuck trying to turn around. Since John was 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, he clearly knew that turning around in this part of the tunnel was not an option for him. He was in a 12-inch high space, with not enough lateral area for his pressed body to ball up for a turn. He pushed forward to the ledge area and squeezed over the top of it. It was a tight area to get through, but he thought he could see it open up down below. He sucked in his stomach and pressed himself through the squeeze, pulling forward on the rocks in front of him. He would be moving headfirst in a downwards angle now, but it looked like there was an area ahead to turn around. John didn't know it, but no one else had ever crossed over this ledge before. He was in completely uncharted territory. Despite being in an extremely tight and uncomfortable position...
I'm sorry, but it's not that hard to put a GoPro on something with a string, right? Beforehand. Like... fucking YOLO swag, procedurally generated fucking death cave. Like, no, just fucking map the shit out and then fucking go. Like...
John kept his cool. He was certain that there would be an opening ahead. All along, he thought he was in some part of the birth canal, where many cavers had felt stuck in the constricting tunnel, but ended up being just fine once they reached the other side. Once he passed through a tight zone, he started to slide toward the bottom of this tunnel. He was nearly doing a handstand, trying to hold his body up and figure out how to push backwards. He still couldn't turn, and now he was upside down. Gravity was pulling his 200-pound body against the fading strength of his arms. He yelled out to his brother Josh and told him not to follow him, but to go back out. They discussed his options and decided that moving forward to try to turn around was the best idea. He was collapsing onto his shoulders and head at this point, and needed to make a move to get out of this vertical position. His headlamp gave him a glimpse of a hole in the floor ahead, which might lead to a larger space. He felt a little more hopeful now, thinking that they would be laughing about this misadventure over Thanksgiving dinner. He made the slight turn and headed towards the hole. Exactly how he got himself into this tunnel hole is unknown. It's thought that he may have slipped, hit his head, and became wedged in the tight space. The other thought was that he looked in the hole, but misjudged what he saw, thinking it was an opening and not simply a dead-end fissure. Either way, John had ended up in a small opening in the bottom of this tunnel, which was impossibly narrow. Just 18 inches by 10 inches, not much bigger than the screen of a laptop computer. John found himself wedged nearly completely upside down at a 70-degree angle. He had spent some time trying to push himself back upwards out of this hole. It was exhausting. His arms were pinned in a useless position, one folded over his chest, and the other trapped on a rock down by his side. He strained against the walls and quickly realized that all of his effort would not move him back up 5 feet to the shallow tunnel. His calves and feet were still free up in the passage, but his legs were now wedged on the smallest side of the hole, only 8 inches wide. He started yelling for Josh again. His brother knew that he was trying to turn around, so his yells were not a good sign. Josh made his way back into this tight space and traversed the corkscrew path. But unlike his brother, he went feet first this time. He continued toward the sound of John's voice, up over the ledge. He finally came to an alarming sight. He could see the end of his brother's legs sticking out of the rock, as if it had swallowed him whole. He inched forward until his feet could squeeze one of John's legs. He tried to grip and pull up, while John pushed from his end. After several futile attempts, they were both feeling exhausted and frustrated. Josh could see that this was very serious, and they would need professional help to get him out. They agreed that Josh should go get help, and John should try, as much as possible, to stay calm and relaxed. While Josh went for help, one of the other family friends went into the area to speak to John and let him know that he wasn't alone. For several hours, John just remained trapped upside down, focused mostly on the chore of breathing. The fissure squeezed his chest, where only shallow breaths were possible. All of his efforts to move up had actually settled him deeper into the crack. As time went on, gravity continued to pull him against the rough walls of the tunnel, tightening its grip on his exhausted body. Once help had arrived, the first cave rescuer, Susie Matola, made her way to where John was stuck. It was now 12:30 in the morning, and John had been upside down for 3 hours. Susie was just 5 feet 3 inches tall, so working her way through the corkscrew area was much easier for her. Ropes had been tied to her ankles as a precaution in case she got stuck as well. She checked on how John was doing and let him know that they'd be getting him out. He must have had a small wave of relief, thinking that professional help had arrived and he would soon be free of this trap. Susie tied webbing straps around his legs and then fed it back to the pit where the tunnel started. Several attempts were made to pull on the ropes to leverage John back up and out of the fissure. There was just too much friction on the ropes to make any effective release on John. He was still pinned, without the use of his arms to fully assist. After attempting a few things and considering many aggressive options, the decision was made to enlist a pulley system in order to help lift John up and out. A pulley had been successfully used when Brock Clark was stuck 5 years before. Even though they had a plan of how to help, this was not an easy location to work in. Each piece of equipment would need to be brought in from the entrance, which took nearly an hour to reach the other side.
Just at this point, just bite the cyanide pill in your fucking tooth,
and only
right?
smaller power tools could be carried in and out.
You're not getting out of this shit.
Only one person could be in there to assist at a time, and they would need to be small or wiry to effectively move through the passage. It was just not an ideal situation.
Do you think they have a lot of insects in these caves as well?
During this time, cavers were trying to talk with John, console him, and share stories to keep him calm.
It's either a lot or nothing.
He was a devout
maybe.
Mormon,
I don't know.
and spent time praying and singing to seek solace in this unreal situation. John had spent the night upside down and was showing signs of the physical limitations of the body to withstand this position. The human body was not made to be upside down for long.
Tell that to your mama. She's a real champ.